So, this is the last week of Embracing Freedom today.
Woo, you guys made it.
Yeah, I know. You made it. And that doesn't mean you stop embracing freedom, just for
No.
clarity, okay? So, we keep going. And that's what this week is about. Is like, now what? How are we going to take action? How are we going to move forward? What are we going to do now, right? We've talked about all the different things and how important community is, how important it is to be aware of our thoughts, how important it is to be aware of our mindfulness, our emotional well-being, all of it, right? Understanding our limiting beliefs, everything. You have all the tools and then some, and you're all doing great with everything that you've been given already. And now, Nick, Dr. Peel, is going to talk about an element of a way to move forward and how it can affect your body by holding on to all the things that we're holding on to,
Mhm.
and how it affects your body, but also how you can take care of your body in his specific specialized way. Obviously, there's other ways too, but he's got such a very unique perspective on this that I'm really excited to share him with you all. So I can say all the things, but I'm just going to let him start talking and do his thing. And then, yeah, then we'll go into small group and all the things. Okay. This is Dr. Neil. Hey, Neil Pick. Sorry. Nick Peel. I
That's
can't talk.
totally okay. That's well, perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Definitely, Brooke, Liz, and I were talking about it before we went live, before everybody came in. Um, Definitely excited to talk to a bunch of people who are thinking a little deeper than the quote unquote typical population. So, my presentation today is a little bit more science heavy, but how we apply this science into your everyday life, but specifically into your healthcare. So, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to take a look at how we can take action of not only our everyday lives, but of our health too. So, can everybody see this current PowerPoint up? Perfect. All right. So, a little bit about me before we get into it. My name is Dr. Nick Peel. I'm a chiropractor by trade, but I also have some postdoc training in not only acupuncture and auriculotherapy, but addictions, compulsive disorders. So, your ADD, your ADHD, your bipolar, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression. We learn how to treat it holistically, conservatively, and all naturally outside of the pharmaceutical realm. Okay, there's a time and place for everything, but my kind of area, my subspecialty is going to be in how to treat all this naturally, holistically, and conservatively. There's a couple things that we have to talk about before we get in too deep. We have to figure out a roadmap or a plan on how to control your health. Now, this could be mental health or physical health or just your everyday living. The first thing that we have to determine is where our goals are. We have to determine where we are currently, where our feet are. Okay. We also have to think about where we want to go. What's the end game in all this? What's the finish line look like? We have to figure out where we are and where we want to go to, because we won't know how to get there if we don't know where we are or what the end goal looks like. A couple examples: a couple patients will come see me and they'll say, "Hey, I'm feeling anxious." Check, they know where they are. They're feeling anxious. That might be a byproduct of something else, but they want to get to a place where they no longer feel anxious. Perfect. We have where they currently are, and now we have where they want to go. So now they can be helped. Now we can help them because we have both ends of the spectrum covered. We know where they are and where they want to go. More musculoskeletal based, some of you might have low back pain. What's your goal? Do you want to eliminate the low back pain? Or do you want to walk a mile without having any pain in your lower back? I treat many people every day who come in and they say, hey, I want to be able to get on the floor with my grandkids or my kids, and I just can't do that because I have pain. So we have to set up a roadmap. They have pain in their lower back. They want to get to a place where they don't have pain anymore. Okay. We have to have that roadmap. Now that we have the roadmap, we need to identify the specific problems. Why do you personally feel the way that you're feeling? What do you think? Is it some kind of underlying trauma, either psychological, your subconscious mind, or is it something physical? Is your subconscious mind giving you some self-doubt? Is your subconscious mind telling you something that's not true? Are we perpetuating this cycle of self-mental harm, if you will? Or the physical side, I'm sedentary and I don't exercise or eat well or take care of myself. These are all reasons why we might be feeling the way that we are, but we have to be able to identify them. Now that we identify our problems, we now have to put a diagnosis. And I use diagnosis kind of loosely. This doesn't necessarily mean going to the emergency room or going to a doctor and, getting a certain code placed on you. That's not what I mean. But the path to figuring a problem out, you have to be able to put a name to it. So one way that we in my office would find a diagnosis is through a couple of these bulleted points that you see on the screen. Orthopedic testing. So I might move your body around to find the pain, see what is generating the pain. Is it a disc? Is it a muscle? Is it a joint? Or is it more psychosomatic, where it might be coming from how you're perceiving things mentally? We could also do some neurological testing, do some reflexes and that of the like. What we do that's a little different in our office is we pride on ourselves on the functional blood labs. It's a little different than your typical blood labs that you would have done by your primary doctor or a blood lab testing site. We have a normal range, but then the functional range is the ideal range. So just because your labs are within normal range doesn't mean it's the ideal range. So we take the blood ranges and we shrink it a little bit to the ideal range. We want our labs to be here instead of within this range, if that makes sense. We also do some subjective pain scales, might check your range of motion as well. This will help us give a clear idea of what's going on before we can treat. The fourth step is designing this plan. Okay, so if you come in and see me in my office, I will sit down with you and we'll talk about what are some of the things that you want to work through? What are some of your goals? What are your goals in the next few weeks? What are your goals in the next few months? What are your goals in the next few years? Okay. How does this affect your everyday life? Are you able to go and get the mail without pain? Are you able to go out into public in crowds? Or does that mentally stress you out? How long do we need to take care of this for? Is this something that a couple visits we can work through, or is this something that we might have to manage over time? Are there any other providers that might be best case to help out too? And then one of the last steps is we have to build resilience, whether it's physical or a mental resilience. We have to be able to convince ourselves that this is going to get better. If you can't even convince yourself, then you're kind of stuck in that pattern. So we can't ignore these problems. We have to be able to put a name to what's going on. If we're anxious, sure, we're feeling anxious, but we can't ignore it. We have to be able to determine why we're having that anxious feeling. If we're having low back pain, we have to be able to figure out why we're having that low back pain. The question is why. We can't do the how until we figure out the why. Being optimistic and knowing that if we just continue working on this, we will get better. And building these relationships, these friendships that will help us stay accountable and be able to rely on other people to help us push over the finish line. So now that we have a baseline, a background of what our roadmap looks like, let's look at a little case study, something that might come into my office. So imagine that you're presented with a 3-month-old baby suffering from colic. I'm sure you've heard of colic. You might have a little bit of an understanding of what colic is. Maybe you've heard of it, but not necessarily the specifics of it. But this baby experiences intense crying, lasting more than 3 hours a day, at least 3 days a week, and for over 3 weeks. Okay. The crying usually occurs in the late afternoon or evening, and the baby often clenches its fists, arches its back or back too, and will pull their legs towards their body. That's typically synonymous for kind of a cry for help, if you will. The parents have tried various remedies, including changing feeding practices, using gas drops, and nothing seems to provide lasting relief. How would we approach treating this baby's colic symptoms? Holistically, conservatively, a little bit different than the allopathic model. Okay, so we'll go, this is where the science kind of picks up a little bit. Just stick with me. We'll get through it. And hopefully this gives you some insight on the behind the scenes look. So we're starting right off vaginal childbirth, right? Okay, so if anybody has ever given birth, seen any kind of birth take place, it can be kind of traumatic for not only the mother, but the baby being born. Especially in the hospital setting, a lot of mothers report that the baby is pulled out by the head, by the neck, by the doctor. And that's by no fault of their own. That's how they learn how to do their job. But let's take a look at the neck. If the doctor is pulling on the head of the baby, what is happening to the neck? There's a lot of force on the neck, right? There's a lot of pulling. There might be some twisting. There might be some torsion of the muscles, of the spinal bones, of the ligaments, the joints, okay? This is a non-neurologically developed human. And we're putting a lot of pressure on their neck, on their spine, and on their brain and spinal cord, okay? A lot of pressure could be on the nervous system. So if we look at what the upper cervical or the neck area looks like on a human, for reference, this is your jaw, this is the base of your skull, and this is the backside of your spine. The red, thick tubes, those are going to be your blood vessels, sending blood to and from the brain. And this orange, kind of spaghetti-like, twisty, turny, there's a lot of it going on. Those are your nerves, okay? Those are coming from your brain, going down your spinal cord, and to every part of your body, every organ in your body, every cell in your body, okay? So if the baby is being pulled out, there's a lot of torsion, a lot of tugging, a lot of kind of traumatic movement in the neck. What do we think is going to happen with all of these structures? Okay. The joints might be pulling a little bit. The muscles might be pulling a little bit. But what about the nerves? Those nerves send every single signal to every part of your body. And if there's a lot of inflammation being caused, don't you think that could cause a lot of issues in not only the baby's neck, but in the rest of the body and how they perceive pain and how they feel, right? Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, so kind of the gold standard for medical research, but also for medical school, one of the top medical schools in the world. Their definition for colic, remember the crying for 3 hours a day, 3 days a week for 3 weeks. Their definition directly from their website says that colic is when a quote, healthy baby cries for a very long time. And this is the kicker, for no obvious reason. Okay. So Johns Hopkins is saying the baby has all of this crying. It's clearly uncomfortable, but it's for no obvious reason. The chiropractor in me says, let's look at the anatomy. Let's look at everything in the upper cervical area that could be affected. Let's think of the mechanism. What happened to the baby before it started crying? And let's figure out that it could be something neurological. It could be something that is causing the baby pain. So hold on to the idea of colic. We'll revisit this in a few slides later, but hold on to that as we continue on. So how do nerves communicate? We have that overarching theme of nerves in the baby's neck might be inflamed, might be twisted, torsioned, some inflammation in there. So nerves, think about a game of pool or billiards. When we break or take a shot with the cue ball right here, we're shooting towards that red ball. It picks up speed, it's rolling on the green, and then as soon as it hits the red ball, what's going to happen? It's going to shoot off in another direction. The cue ball will shoot off in another direction. Each ball might hit another ball. Those balls might be moving. Okay. A lot of movement is taking place. Think of that with the nerves too. The nerves are always firing. They're always sending signals everywhere. Okay. Think of that like a game of pool where these pool balls are moving and everything that they touch will then have an equal reaction. Okay. So think of that as how the nerves communicate. What are those nerves moving called? So when we have a nerve that fires, what is that called? When a nerve fires, we call that a Hertz frequency. Now, a Hertz frequency is how many times every second a nerve fires. So those more important nerves that might have to send more information out might have a higher Hertz frequency. Okay. It's a vibration. Hold on to this again. Hold on to 2 slides and we'll revisit with more information. I want you to just kind of think about this for a second. In chiropractic, we have the idea that the body that makes the body heals the body. So we are born with the innate ability to heal, to grow, to have traumas and work through them, to have physical traumas, get treated, and we can now heal ourselves. Okay. We call that innate intelligence. That's the inborn wisdom of the body that is expressed through the nervous system. So the ability to heal, the ability to self-regulate, the ability not to get sick comes from the nervous system. Now, with colic, there have been a lot of studies done from a variety of institutions, a lot of case studies from other chiropractors, and the results have shown really, really favorable results for chiropractic care. This research study that I sent to Brooke and Liz, research study showed that infantile colic concluded that excessive crying from these babies with colic were reduced by half an hour, 30 minutes, in favor of the group receiving chiropractic care. So that says that the babies that were getting adjusted, that were getting that nerve interference cleared, getting those bones to move, getting the brain and spinal cord to fire at a proper frequency stopped crying by 30 minutes each time. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but if you have a baby who's crying if your baby's crying that much, that 30 minutes is a pretty significant deal. We use soft and gentle, what we call adjustments, that will take the pressure off of the nerves and will down regulate or relax the nervous system. Okay, we're putting that baby into a state where they can now relax. They can sleep without pain. They might not have a headache. They can move their neck better. Okay, and that actually goes to visceral responses like not crying anymore. So, what can be causing this many issues? We talked about some nerve interference being the cause, but what is the real issue that's causing it? Allopathic medicine and us conservative healthcare providers have a few different perspectives. Our treatment might be different, but from the conservative healthcare point, we chiropractors would look at something called the safety pin cycle. And this will give you an idea visually on what's happening. So the top of the safety pin is the brain. The bottom of the safety pin is the body. And the two kind of long side pieces of the safety pin are that connection from the brain and body, that brain-body connection. When everything is firing properly with the nervous system, we are good to go. We're connected. Our alignment is good. Our brain is communicating with our body. But now look at this one. We see the side of the safety pin is no longer connected. The body and brain are not connected anymore. We're disconnected. We're misaligned. We're miscommunicating. It's unnatural. And it's causing disease, okay? Dis-ease, specifically. So what's that word that we consider when the brain and body are not connected neurologically? We call that a subluxation, okay? That's the word that chiropractors have placed on what this nerve interference does. Now, a subluxation can be caused by a combination of three things: a thought, a trauma, or a toxin. If the body has any one of those, we have a dis-ease, or the body is not at ease anymore. So for thoughts, whether it's work stress, relationship stress, financial stress, depression, anxiety, or just emotional stress as a whole, this will play a big role in unbalanced nervous systems. Okay, so we talked about a little bit about how your subconscious mind plays a big role in not only your physical health, but your emotional health too. We have to make sure that we are mentally clear, okay? Anxiety and depression can be managed, but a lot of it has to do with down-regulating the nervous system and working through those psychological or mental issues that you're experiencing in that moment. We could have traumas too. Now, don't think of this as like a car accident. Think of this as maybe something that is noticeable, but it's not terrible, but it grows and grows and grows and grows, and you just can't stop it. The stress that we put on our bodies every day could be a negative stress on our entire body. So think about maybe a healthy workout. A workout is good. It's good to move your body, but over time, you might be a little sore. You might need to stretch it out a little bit. You might feel stuck. Your neck might hurt. You might have a headache, okay? Those are the building blocks. Those are the stressors that we put our bodies in all the time, every day, that we might not even think about. It's a subconscious thing that we're doing. And lastly, toxins. So think about anything in the world or environment that we're being exposed to, whether it's a chemical, whether it's a stressor, bleach, or any of those hard corrosive chemicals, maybe mold, maybe pet dander, anything that are kind of unavoidable. It's something that is in our lives. We really can't take out. Maybe we can take it out of our homes, but a lot of the times it's something that we can't control, and it quickly begins a chemical stress response. So a combination of a thought, a trauma, and a toxin, we call a subluxation. A subluxation, even further, is the inability for the body to express a state of wholeness. Okay, so the body is not whole until we eliminate these subluxations. So what makes the subluxation a nervous system issue? So this is the part where I want you to bring back that slide where we talked about a Hertz frequency. And now look at this slide with the information that you gained from the Hertz frequency slide. One of those subluxations, the thoughts, the traumas, or the toxins that will manifest into the nervous system, they fire at 64 Hertz. Now, if we remember, a Hertz is how many times per second that nerve will fire. So it'll fire 64 times a second, every second, okay? We use in our office an instrument called an integrator. It is the only instrument FDA approved. It is a low force. It is a very fast instrument. There's no twisting, there's no popping, there's no, you won't see this on TikTok at all. You won't see this on Instagram, right? This is a low force technique that fires at 64 Hertz. So it's been designed to fire at the same speed, same frequency as the bad things, the subluxation. And that's how we will eliminate them. It's a reset for the nervous system. It's telling the nervous system that we can eliminate it just by kind of restarting it. Think about your car. Your battery might be dying. You give it a little gas, you give it a little jump start, and then it restarts again. We're giving the battery of our body, the brain, a reboot, a reset by eliminating these subluxations. So very briefly about the history and how this all happened. Torque release technique, which is what we use, was actually designed in a research study in an addiction rehab facility. They determined that all spinal nerves fire at this Hertz frequency. Every nerve in your body has a frequency, it has a vibration attached to it. And with a certain protocol that was developed, they were able to find the areas of the spine that might have been twisted or torsioned, causing an abnormal frequency. So we have a normal frequency that we're supposed to vibrate at. And when one of these thoughts, traumas, or toxins enter our body, that frequency will be altered. It might be higher or lower, but it's causing us a neurological strain. When we use that integrator, it will reset that abnormal frequency to a normal frequency. We call that the brain reward cascade. Without going into too much detail, that could be a 10-hour lecture on itself, the brain reward cascade. It's incredibly detailed. It's incredibly complex, and I'm not even going to say that I understand it all. But that's definitely something that you can go down a rabbit hole very quickly with. So I encourage you to go home, or you're at home already. After this is finished, maybe Google the brain reward cascade and see how this affects all of us. So what we do, we're located in Palm Coast, Florida. We do telehealth specifically with the functional blood labs. But what we also do is we can help manage stress, anxiety, depression, and eliminate some of those symptoms that you might have with it. I'm trained and certified in something called auriculotherapy, which is stimulating points in your ear that directly reflect different organs in your body. So we can relax the nervous system, or what we call downregulate it. We can put you in a more rest and digest state. We can take that edge off. A lot of research has been done and shown that auriculotherapy is phenomenal for not only conditions of the brain, mental conditions, that anxiety, depression, but for bipolar, schizophrenia, ADD, ADHD, we can help downregulate the nervous system so they're more relaxed. Okay. We also do, this is what the auriculotherapy tool looks like. So I'm putting in a small current of electricity, it's a microcurrent, into the ear at specific points, and that will relax the brain and allow you to become whole again, able to heal, rest, digest, and be the person that you were designed to be. I prefaced a little bit the lab testing. We do some functional nutrition testing as well, supplementation, whether it's allergies, molds, or like I said, pet dander, or environmental, something that you're around. We can actually muscle test you and determine if your body is sensitive to it, if you have that hypersensitivity already. And then we can give you specific herbs, nutraceuticals, vitamins, minerals that will boost your immune system and help flush out all of those bad toxins. So I think that's my 30 minutes. So if you have any questions, any comments, I'm always happy to chat with whoever, whenever. All of our information is up on the screen for our website, social medias, and that's my personal cell phone number down here. So please feel free to send me a text, give me a call whenever. Happy to chat with you about anything. Scan our QR code to take you directly to our website. But if you have any questions, please let me know. I know we'll get with the Q&A session, but yeah, appreciate the invite to be here and look forward to answering any questions.
That was